Hello, we continue to see theories and models of interpersonal communication mediated by technology, and in this case, we are going to see the theory of media synchronicity. This theory improves or is an evolution of the theories of the social presence and the wealth of media that we have seen in the previous video. The theory of media wealth focuses on the task. The task is the key element for the selection of the medium and postulates that the communication in group, regardless of the task, whether wrong or uncertain, relational or focused on the activity, is made up of two fundamental processes of communication, transmission and convergence. The transmission is the exchange of information followed by the deliberation on its meaning, a process in which participants must understand the points of view of others. The theory of media synchronicity postulates that the tools have a set of capacities and that the performance of the communication process will improve as these capacities are aligned with the processes of transmission and convergence. The abilities to evaluate are a variety of symbols, parallelism, immediacy of response, feedback, editability, and re-processability. Each of these capacities can be more or less important in a specific communication situation. We are going to analyze them in detail. The variety of symbols is the number of ways in which information can be transferred in a specific tool, that is, the height of the medium, and encompasses the multiplicity of clues and linguistic variety that this tool allows us. The importance of the variety of symbols depends on the information that there is to communicate. In general, convergence requires understanding the interpretations of others, and this helps us that the tool allows us a variety of symbols. Parallelism refers to the number of simultaneous conversations that the width of the medium can effectively exist. In traditional media, such as the telephone, there can only be, evidently, one conversation at a time. On the contrary, many electronic media can be structured in such a way that they allow us simultaneous conversations. The importance of parallelism depends on the number of participants. It is not important for small groups, but for large groups it may be interesting that all members can participate at the same time to reduce the time of the communication process. Convergence usually benefits from parallelism, since the process focuses on understanding the point of view of others. But sometimes it is true that as the number of conversations increases, it can be difficult for the group to focus on the subject or question that is being analyzed, which, in certain circumstances, can prevent the development of common misunderstanding, that is, of convergence. The immediacy of the answer is the measure in which a medium allows users to give a quick response to feedback, to the messages they receive, that is, the capacity of a medium to support the quick bidirectional communication. It is important to improve understanding because it allows to correct the transmission of the message in such a way that any misleading element can be corrected quickly. In an immediate response, the speed and precision of communication can be significantly improved. The immediacy of feedback and parallelism define the level of synchronicity of the media, an aspect that we have seen that is important in previous videos. Editability acquires more importance as it increases the complexity and equivocity of the message, since it increases the editing capacity and allows the emitter to spend more time so that the message is more understandable. On the contrary, it is less important for simple messages. If we compare the editing capacity with the immediacy in general, they do not go hand in hand. The tools with a high level of editability usually have a low immediacy. Finally, re-processability allows the receiver to reprocess the message repeatedly to guarantee a precise understanding, thus facilitating the transmission process. Re-processability acquires greater importance as it increases the complexity of the message. A greater reprocessability will lead to a better understanding, regardless of the communication process, transmission or convergence in which we are immersed, although it is often more important for transmission. We will delve into this in later videos. As we have already commented, according to this theory, in the selection of the media, it must be taken into account that most of the tasks require that individuals transmit information and converge in shared meanings. But in general, the tools that highlight or facilitate the transmission process are not the same as those that highlight or facilitate the convergence process. Therefore, choosing a single tool for any task may be less effective than choosing a set of media that the group uses at different times for the execution of the task, depending on the communication process in progress, transmission or convergence. Let's see it in more detail. The media that facilitate a low immediacy in the feedback and a high parallelism provide a low synchronicity: the email, the chat, and the instant messaging, which is the key to the transmission process. On the contrary, the media that favor a high immediacy of information and a low parallelism, face-to-face communication or video conferencing, promote high synchronicity, which is key in the convergence process. But there are also other factors that influence the effectiveness of the communication tools to support remote work groups, and one of them is the history of the group. That is to say, to what extent the groups have worked, the members of the team have worked together in the past. This is a situational factor that can influence the efficiency, because it can alter the perception of the wealth of the media, of the communication tools in time. Consolidated groups are more likely to have established norms, for example, roles, ways of processing the information, and therefore, during the execution, the members of the group can work separately in the assigned tasks, without so much interaction. And as usual, the execution requires more transmission than convergence, although it is obvious that some convergence process is required. As a group matures, it is likely that it will be able to carry out all the tasks and functions, at least for routine projects, with much less rich information exchanges. On the contrary, newly formed groups, for example ad hoc groups, will have fewer established norms, they have less history, and this will lead to the need for more complex processes to transmit information and, above all, for convergence. Before the members of a newly formed group can work together effectively, they often need to get to know each other better and carry out socially related communication activities that are better developed through media with greater social presence. Thus, newly formed groups, groups with new members and groups without norms accepted, will require a greater use of media with high synchrony, high feedback, and low parallelism. This means that the group's communication requirements will be different over time, depending on the shared experiences. The perceptions about the usefulness of the media, of the communication tools for a given task, and the group's capacity to carry it out in a given medium will vary over time. As the members of the group get to know each other better over time, share common experiences, which can be evoked by very simple messages, the group can work in a more agile way. Therefore, over time, groups will require less communication processes of convergence, or, what is the same, less use of communication of high synchrony, high feedback, and low parallelism. In summary, we have seen in these videos three tools. We have known the fundamentals and where they put the focus. In the case of social presence, the focus is on the performance of the task. It is mainly related to the type of interaction required, relational or focused on the activity. In the case of media richness, it is proposed that the performance of the task will improve when the needs of the task are adjusted to the capacity of the tool to transmit information. And finally, in the theory of media synchrony, which is an evolution of the previous two, the focus is also put on the adjustment of the task tool. Therefore, in these three models that we have analyzed, it is proposed that the result of the interaction is determined by the properties of the chosen tool. Here you have an additional bibliography on these theories and models that we have analyzed.